and welcome to another episode of 5 to 10 in the D. I'm John Irvine. I hope you are all healthy, safe, and everyone is having a happy holiday and a Merry Christmas. So, we're in a series of episodes focusing on people who have changed up their careers, whether by overcoming unemployment or deciding after years in one industry they discovered a new passion and doing something completely different. This episode, I'll be talking to a friend who did just that. His name is Hans Gappy. He's a former Detroit advertising sales executive who decided his desire to help people would best be served by becoming a financial advisor. We're going to talk to Hans about his early years in advertising sales and how his changing values led him to a new career. But first, if you happen to be one of those many people looking for work, the reality is hiring managers spend only seconds on each application. You need to improve your chances of your resume getting noticed. You need the Career Snapshot. It's a quick reading, one-page supplement to your resume CV that brilliantly quantifies and graphically represents your greatest academic, career, business, and even sports achievements with numbers and brief captions. Let the numbers and graphics tell the story of your individual successes and stand out. Get noticed, get hired. Visit mycareersnapshot.com today. Now, here is my interview with Hans Gappy. Hans Gappy, how you doing? Thanks for being on 5 to 10 in the D.
John, it's great to be here, buddy. Thanks for having me. Nice to see you.
Hey, my pleasure. Well, a lot of people obviously don't know who you are. You're a dear friend of mine, but I'll just kind of share a quick little bio on you. Hans, he's a husband. He's a father of 3 children. He's got 2 in college right now. He's a Detroit advertising executive who started his career little over 20 years ago in advertising sales. And wasn't too long ago that he started to have a change of heart about his career, and he made a big shift. And that's what we're talking about in this series, people who have made changes in their careers and people who have remained resilient and endured and persevered through very difficult times that we're in. Yeah, you just made a complete turn and went into something completely different, which is really easy to do, right, Hans?
Piece of cake, John, right? Just simple as clicking my heels 3 times and boom, here I am.
Awesome. Well, thanks for inspiring everybody. We're done here. But seriously, it is a scary thing for a lot of people, especially if you've been doing, in the same industry for 10, 20, 30 years to suddenly make a shift as you did. We want to talk about that in a little bit, but first I want to go back 20 years. A little over 20 years ago, we met we were working for a couple of print publications. But kind of go back to when you got out of college, enthusiastic, young, guy who wanted to get into sales. Like, what drove you to sales and why advertising?
Sure. Well, first of all, nobody goes to college to study sales, right? But I am a lifelong seller. I started my career in sports marketing at the Palace of Auburn Hills, which was a phenomenal experience. After that, I got into licensing with NASCAR and worked on their 50th anniversary sponsorships. And then I found myself in print and had many different stops in print, including the one where I met you, and enjoyed my time doing that. But my longest stint was actually with Apple. So I spent 6 years working with Apple on the iAd platform. And that was a great experience for many reasons. But I think for me, what was most important is it kind of changed my perspective on the selling process, right? So I think those of us that have been in sales, understand here's your quota, you sell against that quota, you get pages in the magazine, you meet that quota, here's your quota for the next year, et cetera. Apple was a little bit different, right? Apple was a little bit more about evangelization and using technology and the changing consumer behavior and helping brands to connect through devices, completely different world from print. But it also helped me to understand, thinking about solutions first and being a consultative seller instead of, what I really had been up to, which was a pretty type A seller. The other thing that my time at Apple helped me with was having a different perspective on compensation, right? And so that's really kind of led me to what made this transition into personal finance. And Apple was a big part of that.
Wow. Yeah. Because and again, looking back at, our industry, it's really changed, had a lot of ups and downs, correct?
Oh, yes. Lots of ups and downs. It's the nature of the beast.
Yeah. What would you say you enjoyed most about selling advertising?
Yeah, absolutely. I tend to be a pretty creative person. I studied visual communication in college, so for me, the creative process was always, a big driver for me. I loved, the idea of sitting down, getting a brief, figuring out a solution, right? And even in print, even though, we were transacting through pages, a lot of times there were sponsorships that included, whether it's custom content or event sponsorships, and that creativity I really liked. But the big thing for me was the relationship, right? The relationship of selling, and Detroit is a very tight community. Sellers and agency folks and clients alike really looked out for each other. And when you start to add up the years, right? You get multiple decades. There are people that I've been calling on for 20 years. So for me, the relationship was a big driver in that.
Yeah. And so what was it though that was like, what was changing that for you started to spark this, I want to do something different?
Yep. So it's funny because it was both exciting and alarming, at the same time. When we talk about the digital transformation, right? And so when digital started to explode and it continues to explode, what we've all seen, is that the accountability that comes with digital, meaning that every impression or view that you sell is attributable to an action, right? And so those are things that as a seller are pretty much beyond your control, right? And so, sellers, we tend to be control freaks, right? Like we want to be able to, one, assure that our product is the best product out there. And sometimes, especially in the digital world where you sell a program to somebody, it's up to, that digital transaction to become fruitful for the client. And that's not something you control. That was a kind of an alarm bell for me. It also means that the relationship becomes less important, because ultimately, if your product doesn't perform or it doesn't perform efficiently, the client or the agency folks who recommend you and love you still cannot buy you. And so that was when I really started to see that, okay, this isn't necessarily a business that's for me moving forward. I want to be in the business of relationships and communication.
And get away from what became more transactional versus,
Absolutely. Yep.
being a consultant and being a solution provider, which involves a relationship with a client. So is that what's important to you today? Like what you're doing today, what is most important to you, your values and who you are today versus who you were 20 years ago?
Yeah, that's so funny, John. And it's a great question, right? So I don't know the audience of this interview who will see it, but I'm sure that there are going to be some 20 and 30-year-olds, and there probably will be some 40 and 50-year-olds. And it's amazing how your priorities change.
Yeah.
When I was in my 20s and 30s, I was very much a type A seller, right? I had a quota, and I enjoyed, fighting to get to that quota, and I enjoyed selling against my competitors and being persuasive. And it was very much about, my ability to, communicate and, hopefully provide a solution that worked for my clients. That's great. But now I'm in my 40s and 50s. My values have changed a little bit, and now I'm kind of looking a little bit more for fulfillment, right? And so to say it as succinctly as I can, in the advertising community, you call on an agency person who represents a client or a client's budget, right? And so it's a three-way transaction.
Mm-hmm.
What I really wanted to do was get back in the business of dealing with individuals on their own personal benefit, right? I want to provide a service to an individual that benefited them directly. If I do a great job and I provide a service, in this particular case, financial advice that becomes fruitful for them and provides them with a direct benefit, whether that's financial independence or control or just some peace of mind, right? That personal gratification that they will feel, I will feel. And so for me, like in my 50, right, the big number 50, which I hit this year, I wanted to have a career path that would lead me more to that fulfillment and relationship size.
So here
Type.
you are today. You're a financial advisor. And
Yeah.
I think I remember you talking about this probably about a year ago. You were thinking about it. The wheels in your head were spinning about, making this change. What was it that drew you to becoming a financial advisor?
Yeah, sure. First and foremost, I mean, there's no more personable business than, financial advising. It's all about trust, and it's all about the individual. The firm that I represent, we are about personal service, right? So it's about, every client is unique, and so we give every client, their own specific strategy. That's a little different from some of the larger firms out there. But the most important thing in terms of, really doing what I love to do is providing a service that I know to be incredibly valuable from personal experience. Right. And so what I mean by that is I learned when I was investing, I would on the side, right, and learning about how you can take one position into an entire portfolio that is growing and providing you with significant returns that it then in turn provides some control and financial independence. What an impactful thing that can be. And so I sit here and I go, wow, this has been really great for me and has allowed me to make a choice to do something that I love. I really want that for other people in this community, right? We all know what a tight-knit community Detroit is, and people are constantly looking out for each other. I felt like what I would like to be doing for the next 20, 30, 40 years is helping people to find that peace of mind, that control, the ability to make a decision to pursue either a career path or a job that they love to do instead of something that they have to do to pay the bills.
So you made a decision to go for it, and you did
I
it.
did.
And obviously there was, education and, schooling that you had to take to do it. But here you enter into it as a financial advisor in very, very challenging, unprecedented times, with COVID. Did you find that to be more challenging, or has that been to a benefit, as a benefit?
To be honest, John, a little bit of both.
Okay.
I would say from a timing standpoint, it's very topical, right? Personal finance is first and foremost on a lot of people's mind right now, especially coming off a year where many got furloughed or had to take a job or a salary reduction, or commissions that they were counting on just aren't there. And I find that most people I talk to have an advisor, but those advisors tend to be focused on retirement, right? And they're talking about, keep your eye on the retirement horizon, and we're going to put things in place to, so that when you retire, you're in good shape. And my outfit tends to be a little bit more near-term thinking, right? Like we're thinking about the things that we can do to drive current income to help people because they need money now,
Yeah.
right? And so that's really kind of what makes us a little different from the traditional firm of the traditional advisor. So for me, having been through it, right, I felt like, one, I could be very relatable to a lot of people in the industry because I know what they're going through, I know what they've experienced, I know what's on their mind, but I also know what a good solution looks like.
Yeah.
And so if I can bring that solution to people, that's why for me, financial advising makes so much sense.
So outside of panic, what advice would you give people right now?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a big year for that across many different topics and fronts. The first thing I would say, we're going to be okay. Like, it's going to be okay. There's certainly a great amount of anxiety, on people's minds, both about their jobs and their finances. The market has actually been pretty incredible and seems to shrug off, bad news every single day. The market still seems, to be moving forward, and there's some good reasons for that. But more importantly, I would caution those, especially in the selling business, to not just sit there and go, okay, well, everything's going to return to normal, right? Those plum jobs are going to be there. The salaries are going to be there. The commissions are going to be there. I do think that there's been a pretty profound change in this market and how management sees their staffing needs in this market.
Mm-hmm.
So I caution people not to just think everything's going to return to normal, but rather, let's have a conversation about, what the path looks like going forward for you. Right? How do you put yourself in a position to be more employable or into a business that has, a different trajectory from media sales? Those are conversations I have every day. But ultimately, what I would want people to know is it's going to be fine.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, assuming lots of people are watching this, the tens of millions of people who are watching this, and they're thinking about this and going, you know what, I maybe I never hear from my financial advisor. I have no idea what's going on, or they just want to reach out to you and have a conversation. How do they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. The best way is through LinkedIn.
Okay.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'm the only Gappy on LinkedIn, right? So you can look me up, HANSGAPPY, and if a picture of a bald guy comes up, it's me. So if you hit me up, I will absolutely answer you. I'll get right back to you. I enjoy having conversations. I look at my LinkedIn network not as a status symbol, right? I want to have people that I'm connected to that want to have conversations and want to talk. So if you hit me up that way, I'm happy to answer. I can give you my email. I think it might be on the screen, but it's, I want to say 48 characters long, so you probably don't have time to write it down.
Yeah, we'll put your name up on the screen and they can look you up on LinkedIn. So I always like to ask my guests this one final question. I usually ask them to go back, to when they were, younger and what advice they would give their younger selves. But you have three young ones, two in college, as we said earlier. What advice, what words of wisdom as a father do you give to your children today?
You mean beyond don't drink that?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I think what I ask them to be, and I've certainly been blessed. I've got three great kids, and my wife Sheila has been, such a blessing in terms of, helping each other, to raise good, smart, responsible kids.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about, you are who you hang around with, right? Be mindful of the people that you surround yourself with. It's really important, and those people are going to have an impact on your future and your success. And so if you're with people that lift you up and support you, right, you're going to thrive. But if you're hanging around with people that hold you back, right, then the opposite happens. So, whether it's through work or your friends or your church, right, or your community, hang around with good people. You find good people and success will find you.
Amen to that, brother. And look, and I count myself blessed to know you and call you my friend of 20 years. And I can attest to everything you just said there. So Hans, my friend, thank you for being on 5 to 10 in the D. Merry Christmas to you. Much success to you in your new career. And I hope people find this inspiring. And if they're looking just for a conversation and want some financial, assistance, please reach out to Hans.
Absolutely. John, thanks for having me. And, Merry Christmas to you and anybody watching this. I hope your holidays are happy.